You're listening to the Cinik Radio Podcast. Now, your hosts, Igri and Cinik.
You are listening to episode 24 of the Cinik Radio Podcast, and I'm your host, Cinik. And with me, as always, my tag team partner and a man who firmly believes pineapple belongs on pizza, Igri. On this week's show, we move one step closer to war, and we discuss The Walking Dead, episode 15, Something They Need. And life imitates art, as we review the most socially conscious horror film of all time in Get Out. Because we are the Cinik Radio Podcast, and we stand with our listeners and our friends in the UK, and everywhere else cowardice like the attacks on London strike. Miss out on that latest viral video? Didn't see the most recent trailer for the next movie coming out? In the dark about what the biggest song in America is? We've got you covered. Every week we scour the internet and look for the latest and greatest. This is What's Up.
What's Up for me this week is the official trailer for Justice League. Can be seen all over the internet, IMDb, YouTube. Just look for Justice League trailer and you will find it. This trailer gives me hope that DC is finally going to figure out what is going on with their superhero movies. This looks like there's going to be a good blend of comedy, action, story development, and our favorite superheroes from the Justice League. Now, Soups doesn't show up, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be in there at some point because you just don't have a Justice League without Superman as well. But the other big guys are there. Batman's there. The Flash is there. Aquaman is there. This looks like a good time. This looks like a great popcorn movie coming out in November. Justice League. The trailer's available now on YouTube. Go check it out. That's What's Up.
So what's up for me this week comes from one of the funniest comedians on the planet, Dave Chappelle. After being out of the limelight for almost 10 years, Dave Chappelle is back on Netflix with two brand new comedy specials. I got to watch the first one. It was his first one in Los Angeles in 10 years, and it was hysterical. It's just really, really funny, kind of classic Dave Chappelle, and does comedy in a way that only he can. So I really, really enjoyed that one. I can't wait to I can't wait to watch the second one later today. But definitely What's Up for me, Dave Chappelle on Netflix. Go check it out.
What's up for me this week is Team America winning the World Baseball Classic in overwhelming fashion in an 8-0 victory over powerhouse Puerto Rico. This is the fourth edition of the Classic in which the Americans have never been even as far as the semifinals. Every pitch in the semifinals and finals had playoff-like atmosphere, and the win was amazing, but the best part was the popularity of the tournament has never been higher. Ratings were up 32% across the board, and it was watched in a staggering 132 countries, which is a great precursor for a sport that had a very strong 2016 with an amazing ending. So let's end spring training now. Let's get the season started. Team America, World Baseball Classic. For me, that's what's up.
Hey guys, my what's up this week is Colin Kaepernick. This NFL free agent who stirred a lot of controversy this past season has proven time and again he puts his money where his mouth is. This past week, despite not looking to be employed anytime soon, he donated $50,000 to the Meals on Wheels program when he heard of the proposed budget cuts to the program by the new Trump administration. I have to hand it to someone who, despite taking a beating all year long for his protest, and ultimately what probably cost him his job and can continue to cost him a job, shows that humanity towards those in need is what is needed most right now. So, Colin Kaepernick, you are what's up.
This morning, I get the honor and pleasure of sitting down with these fine people and talking about the best Walking Dead episode to date, Something They Need. The episode starts quickly as we finally get some hot Central Walker action on the beach. And for as much garbage as this show takes sometimes, and rightfully so, it's justified, and I'm looking directly at you, Mr. CGI dear, the visual component of the walkers is always a home run in my opinion. Rick's group makes their way to Oceanside in force. IG, to start the show off, did you believe there was any way the Oceansiders were giving up a single gun without a fight?
Not really. There had to be some form of somebody they're going to fight because they obviously, when Tara went there, I mean, they showed up in force and they all went with just one person showing up after it, and they didn't know what they were getting into. So, no, I thought there was going to be a fairly sizable fight.
Well, obviously, I don't think that anybody just willy-nilly gives up their guns in this time. So I definitely thought they were going to put up a fight. I don't think that they realized that they were so well prepared knowing that they were going to put up a fight. So they had the explosives and everything ready to go. So I definitely was expecting that.
We see Rick helping Michonne up into a tree into a sniper's position, and he asks her, "Are you good?" And she replies, "Good enough." But Ryan, based on her expert-like marksmanship in recent episodes, should she be the one in the sniper position?
Absolutely not, because it's like this show, everyone becomes an expert marksman like overnight. It's almost like you just magically become expert. You know, you headshots with a pistol from 20 feet away, and I don't shoot, but like I'm assuming that's not easy to do that like with 99% accuracy, which it seems to be. So the fact that she was so bad with the sniper's rifle in this universe is just not good. Like she should not be the one with the sniper rifle when intricacy and every little thing has to go well for this plan to work out. So yeah, she shouldn't have the sniper rifle.
What do you think, IG? I mean, I personally, you want her in a melee position, even if it's with like a training sword. Would you have put her up there?
Well, here's the thing. I have shot quite a bit. I was an infantryman in the military, so
I was a fighter.
Here's the thing. Under stress, I was not a Navy SEAL. Under stress, it's becomes much more difficult. I mean, especially those 20-yard pistol shots to the head under stress is just not going to happen. I mean, most people are shot to shoot center mass, which is right in the middle of the chest because it doesn't move around as much. And having her up there, I mean, it would have been very easy for her to have missed shot. She would not have been my choice. And, and it's a finite resource on top of that. They don't have unlimited ammo to go with these guns. So you're trying to use as little as possible. And with somebody who's shown the ineptitude that she has shown, I certainly wouldn't have put her up there.
The best kept hair in the zombie apocalypse compared to the worst kept hair. Jesus and Daryl are setting up for the attack, and Jesus wishes he would have held Sasha and Rosita up one more day. Daryl casually replies, "Sasha is a good shot, and Rosita can take care of herself." And I have to ask, based off of what, Daryl? Based off of what? Could we please stop jamming the Rosita isn't 3 shades of worthless down our throats? We left the show on a cliffhanger. What happens to Sasha? She went running into the compound and we cut to black. And AMC completely dropped the ball by not even the next day releasing photos of her sitting in a cell. Ryan, how badly was someone fired for this mistake?
It was rough. It was bad. I think, but my biggest issue with it is we don't get to see her like assault on the saviors. Like that was something I wanted to see. I didn't want to just see her in a cell. And yeah, it's like, so we see her in a cell, it was so anticlimactic, and we knew she wasn't going to make it out unscathed. We knew that she'd either be captured or killed, but with all the time that the show kind of wastes leading up to the finale, there are a lot of things that could have been shown, but we just are just left for us to decide, like left to our imagination. And I think Sasha's attack on the Saviors is something that we could have either seen at the beginning of this episode, or at least let us see it at the end of the last episode. Yeah, some cutscenes when they were talking back and forth with Eugene or even Negan at the door, even if we saw like just it shining through just a little bit, up until the point where she got caught, would have helped it a lot. IG, on the scale of screw-ups, which is bigger? Them showing Beth dying before the West Coast showing even happened, or them showing Sasha in a cell like hours before or hours after the last episode?
Well, I think this was a bigger screw-up, and here's why. I think people were just hoping Beth would die. So that just kind of gave people a reason. How did she die? Please, let us see this. But, we were hoping for Sasha to get some shit done. So this was a bigger screw-up.
We see Sasha in her deluxe Easy Street accommodations when the artist formerly known as Creepy Balloon Savior comes in to check on her. He introduces himself as Rapey Dave and offers to quench your thirst in a myriad of ways. They have a brief disagreement that includes a headbutt and a ripped shirt, but, what is that amongst friends? And Negan shows up and expresses a clear anti-rape stance. After Negan saves Sasha, he offers her a choice. He also clearly is against rape. IG, did that sway your opinion on Negan at all?
Well, I love Negan, and he's a great villain, and it didn't really change any of my opinion on him. I guess it's funny that the rape is only allowed if it is Negan himself, and even if you think that I am Negan, like everybody's supposed to be Negan, just the original Negan's allowed to rape. nobody else is allowed. So no, it didn't change my opinion. It just kind of threw a little shade on it.
Well, see, that's it. Negan's very millennial in the fact that he gets consent. It might be strong-arm consent, but he gets consent. I mean, he gets you to marry him before he does anything. Kate, was there any chance that Sasha went the Eugene route and became a savior?
No, absolutely not. I think that she is kind of seeing what I was hoping that Eugene was seeing, where you can more or less have a better in if you're actually in the Saviors. You would have a better route of figuring out how they do things, stuff like that. I'm hoping that she goes that route, but I totally do not think that she's ever going to become a Savior.
No, she definitely won't. I think what's more interesting to me is why would Negan expect her to change? Like why? And in the way that he did it, it just seemed odd. She with Eugene, you could tell Eugene's kind of cowardly, and it would be easy to break him. He didn't even have to break him. He, offered him, a nice accommodations and some pickles, and Eugene was on board. But, Sasha just went in and wanted to murder him and murder other people. So obviously she has an agenda. So I want to know, I guess, what are Negan's motives for approaching it like that? Because obviously he can't think that she's going to join and turn against them. So I guess that would be I'm more interested in Negan's got to be smarter than that. So what's his plan, or what's he working on?
Yeah, he approaches it as, I know you were just shooting at us, but, we can make things slightly better for you and, join Team Negan and it's all forgotten about. I think there's got to be a set of trials and tests, but we never got to see that with Daryl because he wouldn't flip. Eugene shows up and tries to get Sasha to take the deal and explains that cowardice impacted his decision. IG, where are you on the Eugene is a traitor argument? And can you sympathize with him?
While I can sympathize with him a little bit, I'm seeing it turn quite a bit into I'm not as happy with the haircut. Losing a little respect for the mullet lately, because although I understand why he's doing it and that he's scared and that he sees a way that he can still basically live, eat pickles, and have his little stuffed animal, I'm hoping that this turns into something where when the opportunity arises, he takes a chance and subverts the Saviors at that point.
I think he definitely throws on the white hat at the last moment, but that's just me. I'm holding out hope. Either way, once again, Josh McDermott, he's doing a great job in these last couple episodes. Good old Gregory approaches Mags outside the wall and nicely asks her, the doctor's gone. Your friends are gone. Why haven't you GTFO'd yet? After a quick back and forth, they agree working together is the best plan, and he actually watches her back. He takes out a knife. He gets a really, really ominous look across his face and then quickly shakes it away. Even in an unaware, pregnant state, Kate, did Gregory have a shot at all in killing Maggie?
Oh my God, no, not at all. Maggie's quicker and just generally better at that kind of stuff than he is. And he is just, you watched him fumble all over himself with a walker. He obviously can't handle his own. He's a special kind of breed in this show.
No, I don't think I guess it depends on if she expected it, but he wouldn't know how to kill her. He didn't know how to kill a walker. So how's he going to kill a living, breathing, person? So, I didn't expect him to be much of a threat, and I didn't think he would follow up on it. He's not the violent type. He'd go behind her back and rat them out to the Saviors before he actually does any of the dirty work himself.
Two walkers appear and they come out. Maggie kills hers basically with ease, but Greggy boy can't seem to handle his. They end up in a struggle. The walker ends up on top and he's screaming for help. Did Gregory show Maggie that he's completely inept, and did that seal the fate of the relationship and the obvious betrayal that's to come?
I think it did. I don't think that he's got any way that he thinks he can survive out there, and he sees his power structure is tumbling, and it's tumbling quick. So that being said, everything going the way it's going, he's going to need to go and get the Saviors to fight the rest of his battles for him, get in the compound and just, sit around drinking gin or tequila or whatever Simon's favorite drink is that week.
Ryan, did you think that Maggie was at all being catty when she yelled over to the group of passing hilltoppers, hey, he's never killed one before, but, he's kind of working it out?
Yeah, no, she was. And I think it was meant to stick, kind of obviously like to insult him. And I think she's not the, kind of playing politics and trying to sneak behind people's back type, but I think she realizes her status is increasing and his status is decreasing, and they do need the hilltop. And so I think to have the people more and more on her side and to realize that she's invaluable, was important. So I think it was a line that obviously it does stab at him a little bit, but also it was meant to let them know, he doesn't know what he's doing, and they might want to rethink following him.
Tara takes point and waits in Natanya's cabin and takes her and Cindy at gunpoint and tries to talk some sense into him. After the explosions start, Natanya fakes a leg cramp, and they quickly take Tara down and disarm her and take her hostage. Even though she did a better job convincing him the merits of joining Rick's group, do you think, Kate, that it was a step back for the character by her being disarmed so quickly by the two of them after they've spent so long trying to build her up?
I mean, Tara's never been my favorite. I feel like every time that she gets a little bit ahead, she ends up taking steps back. I think that it kind of brought her up again, though, when she was sitting there negotiating, talking to him and like telling Michonne not to shoot and stuff like that. I think that it kind of showed that she does have the ability to talk to those women and to kind of sway them when sometimes Rick can get too hostile right away. She was kind of talking it out better than he was going to because she was relating with them. So, I mean, I think she kind of saved her image, but...
Yeah, to be cool, calm in that situation when you have somebody that's obviously unsettled holding a gun to your head probably does show a little bit of poise. I mean, I personally wouldn't want Michonne shooting at anybody holding a gun near me because I'm not quite sure she would hit that person.
But I think that... I think it was good writing to have her disarmed so quickly because, I think that's a big issue with the show is that people just acquire skills when they're necessary. And so it shows growth in her character as far as her confidence. So she's more confident and it appeared that way in the cabin. But at the end of the day, she was still disarmed because she hasn't acquired those skills and maybe the composure that was necessary. And so I think it was actually a good writing and good for her character. And it didn't make me think any less of her character because she did show better confidence and she was stronger. She's just not there yet.
A far more convincing argument too. IG, how badass and efficient was Rick's group's plan? Not only did they round everyone up, but they kept them from the guns and no one was hurt except their pride.
That was a really good plan. I mean, it was like sheep herding or lemmings, and they just funneled them to a very specific spot where they could hold them down, get them all to sit down. Nobody got hurt, and they even knew where the guns were at because of Tara's information. Had people there, so when the people were going to run to get some guns to try and defend what was going on, they already had that backside covered. It was an amazing plan, very well thought out, and I'm wondering how they got so good with the explosives, because the only person I know that's good with explosives is Rosita, who was off gallivanting with Sasha.
So they tell us.
But they made it work. Very controlled explosions to push people in a very specific pattern, and it worked. And no one got hurt, and they can maybe add these to the garbage pail kids, and everything will be good.
Natanya shows up with her gun firmly planted on Tara's head, and being so far outgunned, she decides she would rather die than join the fight. Ryan, was it a believable character choice to you?
I don't know. I guess she's not really been developed well enough for me to know what her motivations are, how stubborn she is, why not join the fight. Obviously, she's terrified of the Saviors. So, I mean, I guess there's that just fear. She'd rather be dead than face the wrath of the Saviors. And I don't think maybe she doesn't believe they can win. So I think if you take that into account, it's believable.
Cindy steps up and knocks her grandmother out, and the Oceansiders join Team Rick in a great Zombies of the Caribbean beach battle. In taking out her grandmother and siding with Rick, has Cindy now taken control of Oceanside, Kate?
No, I don't think so. I think that she is going to try to win them over, and I think it's going to be like most cases where they're kind of split on who wants to and who doesn't. I think in the end, she might become the leader, but I think that she has much more to do than just punching out her grandma.
Well, I think that she might be the person that pushes people in a direction, but I think it's either going to be some are going to go back and follow Netanya because they're scared, or some are going to follow Rick and just fall into his line. So I don't know as Cindy's going to be a leader as much as help in identifying strengths and weaknesses in the people from Oceanside.
I think that I don't think she'll become a leader, but I think she might leave. So I think that would be but I think that, I think it shows her strength, and it shows that she's kind of on the right side morally. Well, I guess she's on the right side, but, I don't think she'll be a leader.
Well, I would embrace her as quickly as possible because she has Renly written all over her. Rachel, on the other hand, is nothing but Joffrey, in my opinion. IG, was that not the best Walker battle in a very long time in the run, at least in this portion of the series? I mean, even Rachel was out there kicking ass.
Well, it definitely had some very great moments in that battle, and it was more of a battle than like earlier in this half of the season when they drove the line across the walkers. Like the actual up-close battle, and that had to help some of those Oceanside people decide to see that not only were they being protected, but that our faithful battle buddies here were literally standing there getting the job done.
What did you think of the spirit of cooperation, Ryan?
I thought, I don't know, I thought visually and just from an action standpoint, it was really cool. I still like the zombie clothesline a little bit better, but this was more of a battle. But I just, again, I thought it was too convenient. They set off the explosives, and just enough walkers come by so that they could show show their strength and their competency, and they can work together. But not a gigantic horde shows up. So I was a little like, that was bothering me while it was going on, because it's like, all right, so this is just a little too convenient. Like that plan worked out just too well, considering that they were setting off massive explosives. Just like I said, I think. I liked the action and the visuals, but I didn't love how it just fit into the story.
We shoot back to Sasha, and she has agreed to take Negan's deal, and he wants to harness the power of her beach ball-sized lady nuts. But Negan's not buying it right away. She needs to put the work in. Kate, what could Sasha possibly do to convince that she's Team Negan?
Well, I mean, I think that he's going to put her through a more rigorous thing than he did with Eugene. I mean, he made Eugene go around the complex. He made him say, I am Negan. Like, he's going to make Sasha prove that she's part of the crowd, because he knows that she's stronger than Eugene. So he knows that it's going to take a lot more for her to become submissive to this group. And until she can prove that, he's going to keep her locked up. And I think she's going to have to really, really prove it by the whole kit and caboodle that he does with I am Negan, making her work for him, showing how she is going to be useful to that group. I think it might actually become a thing where he makes her do something to her old group almost to prove that she is part of the Saviors. During
one of their conversations, Negan has a great line, and he says, "We all have shit to get over." I thought that was perfectly delivered and rings true in so many ways. Sasha tells Eugene she wants out, and she begs for a weapon or something. He returns with poison that he made for Negan. Do you believe for a second, Ryan, that he thought it was for her and not the other way around?
I'd like to think no, but then he would. What's changed for him? If he wasn't okay with it before, what's changed for him to be okay with it now? So I think until he shows otherwise, I'm going to side with him, just kind of thinking, yeah, it was for her.
I tend to agree with you. I don't think he's about to sacrifice his warm bed or his jar of gifted pickles for anybody. IG, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm in total agreement that he thinks he's just helping an old friend find a way out. And yeah, it's a permanent way out, but I think that's what he thinks he's doing. You could see that Sasha was very upset because she wanted something that maybe she could lash out and get something done with. But Sasha's smart. Maybe this will turn into using the pill for other purposes.
Rick and the group tell the Oceansiders that they will get their guns back at the end of the school year, and Tara once again reminds Rachel that she's number one. Ryan, could the trip to Oceanside go on any better for Team Rick?
No, and that's what bothers me, is that with again so much time wasted this season, this part of the season, really the whole season in general, we could have had a longer or larger storyline that spanned over a couple of episodes to show us them working a little bit harder. Because it just, I mean, I know things have gone the opposite, have gone just as bad as possible for them for most of the season. But this was just too convenient. It worked out just a little too well for my liking, but it was necessary because we got one episode left till the end of the season. So it's one of those things where I wish they could have spent a little bit more time and made this a little bit more exciting and really maybe make them earn those weapons and earn their trust. But yeah, you know, it did work out great, but I just would like to have seen something better.
IG, do you think that the fact that Oceanside was rolled over so quickly makes them less of a respectable or formidable force?
No, I don't really, and the reason is you're going to have to react to certain things in certain ways, and those explosions were big enough to make you kind of want to go, oh, time to get the fuck out of Dodge. It was an appropriate reaction to what was going on, and I'm pretty sure that these ladies are all carrying some melee weapons with them most of the time, so they weren't running with nothing. They just happened to run into people that were standing there with guns and the crossbow, which I still believe is like, the crossbow is good for certain things, Daryl. But come on, man, pick up a gun once in a while. Reloading time on that thing has got to be awful.
It's like the time of a musket. Daryl's fighting. He's out there with a black powder gun fighting walkers. Kate, what did you think of the trip to Oceanside?
I mean, I think it went really, really well. Obviously, they got what they wanted and no one got hurt. I don't think that it makes me think any less of Oceanside, though, because, I mean, like I said, you have to know when to back down. I mean, it gets stupid at some point if you're going to fight a bunch of people with your knife when they have explosions. So I think that they're going to surprise us. Probably not this season because there's only one episode left, but I think the next season they're really going to surprise us and show us what they can do.
They return back to Alexandria, and Miss Personality Rosita is waiting for them. Lucky them. They all want to know about Sasha, and she vaguely answers, much like a child, someone is here. Every time Rosita is on camera, I want to take her over my knee and spank her, and not in a rapey Dave kind of way. She's just a perpetual pounding child, and she drives me crazy. Even her answers, you know, she was so surefired and ready to go do the death pack, and at the first opportunity, she ran away. You know, and so I don't quite know where she stands. But anyway, they go to the jail cell, and we find Dwight. And he's here to help. Instantly, Daryl goes full Stone Cold Steve Austin and wants at him. They hold him back. IG, do you wish Rick would have let him get at least one stunner in?
Had to get at least one stunner, and it's a stunner for Daryl. You had to get at least one. I mean, maybe 3 or 4. Maybe he gets to throw one on Dwight and one on Rosita for bringing him there. I mean, you gotta let him get a little bit out. I mean, all the shit that Dwight put Daryl through, and he's still wearing his vest, for Christ's sake. Come on, man.
What do you think, Ryan? Do you think they should have let him open up a can of whoop ass?
No, I think at this stage they have a potential defector. Not that letting Daryl get a couple punches in would make Dwight change his mind, but I think it makes sense to calm everybody down and figure out why Dwight's there and if he can help, because if he's there and honestly on their side, he presents a hugely valuable resource. So it makes sense not to kind of create more tension than there already is at that point.
Rick calms Daryl and turns to Dwight and says, "Oh, you want to help, huh? Well, then on your knees." And with that, I stood up and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Rick motherfucking Grimes." Kate, what did you think of the ending?
I mean, I thought it was great. I think it was a great suspense holder because I think everyone's kind of been itching at the fact that they know that Dwight wants to help because of how he's been acting around the Saviors lately. And I think that Rick isn't going to let that come so easily. He's going to make him prove it. Kind of like how Negan makes them prove that they are Negan. He's going to make him prove that he is not Negan now.
Oh, I was so fucking impressed. And Rick Grimes, this whole episode showed how much Rick Grimes is old Rick Grimes. And I'm so happy because he has got some fight left in him. He's ready to go, and he's pulling it all together, and he's making things work between the raid on Oceanside to how he's making things work with the Garbage Pail Kids to the little bit of control he has up at the hillside, because even when he had his meeting with Gregory, he came outside and all the people from hilltop. We're sitting there looking at him like we're ready to go. He's got a formidable force, and now he's got the arsenal to use with that force. So I think I'm very excited.
Ryan George, ringmaster of the Jim Witz podcast, give me your thoughts on the episode and your rating.
So I'm mixed on the episode. I think I'm just mixed for this season. I think again, it had a lot of good scenes, some strong moments, some good action. It felt like it was moving. I think the thing I did like about it is the episode just felt like things were moving, but I still feel like a lot of the season's been filler for the last episode. And I think the one issue, and I think maybe we'll talk about it more when we talk about the season as a whole, but we kind of knew that the last episode was gonna be the big battle. And with that in mind, I was hoping that they wouldn't make the rest of the season feel like filler, but that's kind of a lot of what happened. There was some good character development, and it ended really strong. And again, there's some great scenes, but I still can't help but feel like it's all just filler, and things are kind of conveniently done when they need to be, and thrown in place when they need to be thrown in place. And characters kind of have certain traits when they need it, and then they don't when they don't need it. So, again, as the rest of the season, I think strong moments. Solid episode, but doesn't quell my own frustrations from this half of the season. So I will give it a 7.5.
Kate, in for the vacationing Julie, and we appreciate you coming back. Give us your thoughts and ratings on this episode.
I mean, I'm going to have to agree with Ryan a little bit in the sense of this season has been, to say it nicely, pretty boring. They ended so strong last season with Negan coming out and stuff like that I felt like after that, they didn't really have anywhere to go. So this season did kind of seem like filler. There were moments where I caught myself kind of trailing from the episode, which was kind of disappointing. I feel like the last few episodes, though, did get me kind of back into, okay, let's do this. Let's get to the fight. I got excited about the show again, especially with them bringing back in zombie fights, because it's kind of why this all started. I'm excited to see it. So, I would say this episode personally was probably an 8 for me.
This episode had a little bit of everything, and they needed it. Maybe they have set the bar a little low, so this coming up on a high episode, I really liked it. Ryan said something last week about some Game of Thrones storytelling, and he was right. That's exactly what they needed, and they did this a little bit. They bounced around. They gave us the lay of the land. And I'm not going to lie, I'm going to fanboy it up. I loved this episode. The attack on Oceanside standing shoulder to shoulder with Rick, the battle of the Sea Walkers. The Sasha and Negan stuff was very compelling. And even Eugene expressing his weird roundabout fondness for Sasha. I want you to stay, but it sounds like you're already gone. I totally marked out for Rick in the final scene and those last few lines. For the first time in a long time, I didn't want the episode to end. I was jumping out of my seat by the end of it. I give the episode a very enthusiastic 9.
I really enjoyed this episode quite a bit, and a lot of what you guys have already said, the return to actually having to kill a few walkers, that did a lot for me. The attack on Oceanside and the actual tactical way that they did it shows that you're going to have the ability to do some of the things, I think, in the future to the Saviors. Because, if we listen back a few episodes, I was saying they have to be tactical about it. They can't just rush in and try and overwhelm. They're going to have to take some chances and try and live on human nature to move things around. And I can see that they agreed and they're moving in that direction. That says a lot to me. The storytelling in this was great. Eugene, as much as I don't like what he's doing, his acting in this was wonderful. And Rick motherfucking Grimes is totally back. I'm on board. I'm going to give it an 8.5. It's not my best this season, but it's a very strong episode. So there you go. Episode 15 of The Walking Dead, Something They Need. We had a great time. Let's call it an 8.5 across the board. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit of Get Out.
Well, that's odd. A horror movie with a message. It actually delivers it. Today, from the mind of Jordan Peele, we're going to talk a little Get Out. IG, other than a very odd trailer and an incredible Rotten Tomatoes score of a 99, what did you know about the movie Get Out going into it?
Really, all I knew about it going into it was it seemed like somehow they were going into some alternate dimension where white people were acting like they were in the 50s and it had an interracial couple. And Jordan Peele writing and directing. And that, quite honestly, was enough to kind of get me intrigued, because I've been a big fan of most of the things Jordan Peele has done. I mean, I know it's been a lot of comedy, but a lot of the comedy's been very smart. So as far as that goes, I was intrigued.
I believe I saw the trailer watching Keanu, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember thinking it was a little strange, just because, yeah, he's known for his comedy. But as Ig said, and I think maybe I was still a little skeptical, I know how smart their comedy is. Even like when things don't land, you can tell like the intelligence behind what they do. So I was intrigued, but a little skeptical. Like how is he going to pull this off? And then after Keanu, I was actually a little bit disappointed in that. So I think that brought the stock down for me a little bit. So then I wasn't really looking forward to it until really I started hearing all the great buzz surrounding it.
I didn't know a lot myself. I think I saw a preview before one of the movies I've just recently saw, and it was more or less just a visual of tears coming down Chris's eyes, which, you know, I had no context for. But I'm always apprehensive when someone steps out of their wheelhouse and tries something different. But you know, I'm after seeing the movie, I'm really glad he did. So the movie starts with Chris, who's African-American, and Rose, who's white, head to Rose's parents' house for the weekend. Chris seems a little bit apprehensive, and he finally breaks down and asks Rose, have you told them yet? Ryan, have you ever had to do the meet the family or parents type weekend, and how did it go?
Yeah, I mean, I think almost any relationship I've been in, I've had to do the meet the parents or family thing, and I'm very much can relate to him, because I'm mixed, half black, half white. I look, you know, generally kind of, especially where you know, growing up, it's like if you're mixed, you're generally kind of put in you're black. So, you know, I've had to deal with that, you know, and then most people I've dated have been white for the most part. So actually I've had that happen a number of times where it's like, all right, time to meet the parents. Let's see how they're going to react. Even if the person says they're not going to react poorly, you just never know. So I actually have had that experience a number of times.
Knowing that you're part of an interracial couple, IG, have you ever had to do this, and has race ever played a role in it?
It absolutely has. I've had lots of places, and some places are a little more accepting. I mean, my wife and I, we were in the military, and the military is a really big melting pot as far as things go. But, you know, when you're in the military, wherever you're at, you're still around the rest of the world, and you go out into the world and people kind of look at you strange. I mean, sometimes it feels a little odder because I'm a white man and I'm married to a black woman, and that's not uncommon, but it's less common. So I kind of get some looks, and my middle daughter just happens to look very white, and people used to ask my wife whose child it was. It was kind of some strange things.
Ryan, what are your thoughts on the whole Armitage? And by the way, there's not a whiter name in the world than Armitage. What's your thought on the whole Armitage reception and the initial feelings on Dean and Missy, Rose's parents?
I think you could tell they were kind of going out of their way to appear as accepting as possible, which I've experienced, which also have experienced. But it made me a little skeptical, like what's going on that they feel the need to go over the top with their kind of acceptance, you know, and being okay with him. You know, you could tell it's weird because I think it was so well acted. You could feel the tension, even though they were trying really hard to kind of make him feel welcome and like, oh no, everything's fine. We don't notice anything.
Yeah, he laid it on a little thick with the my man stuff, and I, you know, right away I would have voted for Obama a third time, and you know, I know how bad it is that we have, you know, African American help. I know how it looks.
And I see that, like I see like the kind of my man thing, or like, you know, I'll see people directly, like, you know, they'll shake people's hands and then they come over to me and give me a fist bump or a pound, and like, or they'll say things like, hey, how are you? You know, they'll speak one way to everybody else, and then when they get to me, it's like, hey, my man, or you know, it's just like, come on. It's like, I'm not offended by it, because it's not like, you know, it's not. I don't think that, you know, people mean bad, but it happens often enough that I loved how the subtle kind of like, you know, he plays it so well, how he reacts to those situations like, all right, it's strange, but whatever, I'm going to go with it. Because, you know, not much you can do but just kind of go with it. You can't start yelling at people or telling them they're being racist, because it's not really being racist in that setting. It's just kind of, they're maybe not thinking about how they're interacting differently with people. But I love how that's played, and just his reactions really connected with me. Like I was like, you know, I've been there, I've seen that, and that's exactly how how I would react in that situation.
Even though the people working around the house seemed a little distant and off, I didn't get any idea that anything was up until we met Rose's brother, Jeremy. Could you immediately tell IG that Jeremy was going to be a problem for Chris no matter how this turned out over the course of the weekend?
I think so, because Chris seemed like the prototypical douchebag. I mean, he should have been named like Chad or something. It would have fit better. He could have had a backward visor on. Bro, let me show you something. You like UFC, bro?
Yeah, his whole introduction was a little odd, and it felt like the character was kind of channeling its own personal Heath Ledger. I wasn't a fan right away. Ryan, what did you think of the brother?
I thought he was strange. And is he just kind of special? And they kind of everyone, the family kind of is there to protect him, and they kind of hold back, or is he a sign of things to come? So but definitely did not like him, and he was a little off-putting, and I could see that he was going to represent some kind of a problem.
Well, they said he was going to medical school,
yeah,
so
that's true.
I don't know how special he could be, other than he's got to be in some major fraternity wherever he's going to school, because he's got the douchebag act down pat.
Rod, Chris's best friend, did a great job being not only the voice of the audience, but the comic relief of the movie. And I think he did a fantastic job at it. But for you, IG, on a personal level, did Rod's persistence and detective skills restore your faith in the TSA?
Oh, yeah. Well, it may be little known, but I used to work for the TSA right when it was formed. And yeah, that's exactly how the TSA believes they are. Those guys really, really, really want to be law enforcement and think that they are doing the most amazing thing. But TSA really just stands for touching sensitive areas, and that's all they're doing. And you can really see, because the other acronym we used to use with TSA is Thousand Standing Around, and you never saw this guy doing any work. He was always standing outside smoking cigarettes. And that's pretty accurate too, but in the long run, he did a great job, and he's the one that kind of solved where he was and what was going on. So, I mean, you can't fault the guy.
I thought he was great. He was one of the best parts of the movie and was perfect kind of comedy relief, and it was just a great character. And he, I just loved how they introduced him, how he was able to kind of solve the problem. No one wanted to listen to him, and again, he was just hysterical. So I think it really brought some levity to some of the situations. And even when it ends, like, I didndidn't put together that he would be there, because I didn't even know the TSA have cars or have their own like TSA police cars. So it's a good way.
They really don't. He stole an airport police car, because most of the airport have police and they have cars. He basically stole an airport police car. I was like, are you serious? You're going to be in so much trouble, dude, because TSA aren't allowed to drive those.
What killed me too is yet another city folk that had to go steal a car to get it out of the city. I mean, not looking at you or anything, Ryan.
Yeah. But no, he was definitely it works well, because you find kind of subtle dark humor in what Chris is going through, but he was great to add just the laugh out loud humor, and he plays it so well that, I think it was one of my favorite parts of the movie, and again, I just added great levity and humor throughout.
I'm not sure which creeped me out more, Walter or Georgina. Walter's seemed like a much more physical presence and threat by the way he was cutting woods and the way he was running around, and Georgina just kind of was always messing with her hair and had a far odd, disoriented look in her face. IG, were you under the impression that the hypnotism was solely to blame for all this?
Initially, no. I just thought they were strange. This is where the thing where I thought that they were back in the 50s or something was going on. Like somehow they crossed some interdimensional path that moved some of the people in the area back 50 years, 60 years, 100 years, where people would just act like that in an open setting, because something was just off about both Walter and Georgina. I mean, it comes around to why it was off, but initially it was bad.
I thought it was hypnotism. They had established it earlier, and then there was the scene where with the when they were sitting at the table, and she has to kind of stop Georgina, and she just verbally is able to kind of stop her, and Georgina turns away. And I thought, okay, then it must be the hypnotism. So I thought there was something, it was a little strange, but my thought, yeah, that was that, and they had done a good job of establishing the hypnotism as a kind of a superpower of hers. So I figured that was it.
At one point, Missy, who's a psychiatrist, offers to hypnotize Chris to help him quit smoking. He declines. Later, she does it against his will. IG, how long would it have took you to get out of Dodge once you realized this happened?
I'd have been walking. Like, I'm not even sure I would have told my girlfriend, wife, children, anything. I'd have down the road. Yeah, I mean, this is where true suspension of disbelief comes in. Horror movies are notoriously bad for the white people are like, hey, look, okay, so the walls are bleeding, but this house is really nice, so let's stay. And that's why most of these horror movies don't have black people, because black people be like, nope, I'm out. See you later. No, I'm out of here. I mean, my wife won't even watch horror movies. She did watch this. So this is more thriller than horror, but you know, my wife doesn't watch horror movies because she's prototypical black lady that way, that she's like, nope, run, bitch, they gonna kill you. As far as that goes, yeah, I'd have been out of Dodge like the next morning, or as soon as I woke up with that, oh my God, what the fuck happened? I'd have been put shoes on, down the road. I'll leave all my shit there. You can have that. I'm out.
During the white accused scene, I like to call it, Chris is beset on all sides from probing stares and inappropriate questions. Ryan, have you ever had to deal with that?
Yeah, again, very similar type of, situation where I'm kind of like the only black person in the group, and you'll get, even if I'm just meeting somebody, you'll just get weird questions that are kind of off-putting, but not, it's like, they're not, the intent isn't bad. I think in this case, they were a little over the top, some of the questions he was getting. But I've definitely been in that situation where you get some weird questions where you're like, you didn't think that one through. You didn't consider, they just didn't consider like what those questions mean, or how you appear by asking that. So I've definitely been in situations like that.
I've been in situations like that with my friend Cage, where I've watched it happen, and then I just kind of see him deflate after he leaves, and I'm like, what? He's like, you didn't hear what he just said to me? And then he explained to me, over the course of time, I became more sensitive to it, and I'd be able to pick up on it a little more, because I didn't realize how much it was happening around me. Because we're cool doesn't mean you're going to be cool with the next guy, and doesn't mean that they have any experience or realize how they sound when they're asking these, and they really turn out to be nothing but inappropriate questions.
Yeah, and often it's kind of innocuous. It's just like you don't realize it until you're kind of in that, until you're made aware of it. It's one of those things that people won't realize. I had a situation with my wife yesterday, not quite the same, but like she was actually more offended than me. I was like, whatever. But there was we were on the train, and the conductor was taking our tickets, so we're all standing up. It was a busy train, and I was standing next to my wife, who's Hispanic but looks white, and then there was a black couple next to me, but nobody looked like they were together. So I hand the conductor 2 tickets for my wife and I, and then he goes to my wife to take her ticket because he just assumed that the black lady standing next to me was with me. And so and then my wife, I was like, stuff like that happens all the time, or people say things or misread things. But my wife was kind of more upset with me over that. Like, how dare he like just assume that it was it was for her. And so stuff like that happens, and you're not aware of it until you're in the middle of it and it happens to you.
In order to not become the unintentional racist, it's in social situations when you don't know somebody, it's always safe not to assume anything, ever. Jordan Peele became the first rookie director to not only write and direct a movie that passed $100 million at the box office. Amazing feat for somebody just coming out of the box. I mean, I'm sure that his name helped a little bit, but he turned out a solid product that was out of his wheelhouse. I'm excited to see what the guy does next if this is his first offering. Let's hope it's not a case of a one-hit wonder. So I have to admit, I yelled out those motherfuckers during the Chris auction. Stephen Root, who plays a blind art dealer, wins the right to Chris. And I love I love a short cameo. What did you think of Stephen Root in the role, Ig?
Stephen Root's amazing in pretty much everything he's done. I mean, he's such a broad actor that can go so many different directions, and he played that role very well. It was a little reminiscent of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, because he was blind, but not quite as Southern redneck. The way he explained to Chris about how he was a big fan and everything and that he admired his work and stuff, it really fleshed out that character in a very short scene.
I agree. He's really a versatile actor, and I love when he shows up anywhere. Just knowing his roots, and from I loved him in News Radio and as Bill Dauterive on King of the Hill, and just seeing how he's grown as an actor. He's like kind of the go-to versatile actor in just about any role. Ryan, once the plot was revealed and the Order of the Caligula was outed, what was your feeling about the twist of the movie and the concept of the surgery?
So I love the twist, and I think it really showed some of the skill that Jordan Peele kind of wrote and directed this movie with, because you take him in a situation where there's a lot of social commentary in it, and I never felt like you were hit over the head with it, but it was there. But you had this situation where, like, okay, there's one black guy and the white people are kind of the villains in the movie, and by adding that twist, it made it not like a black versus white thing, but like there was a reason why they were doing this. Now we can who knows why they chose black people, but it wasn't about race so much as it was about them, living and continue to move on. And I just loved the twist, and I'm glad they didn't spend any time trying to explain like the science behind it. It just works. And so I think the twist really was, again, a way to kind of bring down some of the racial tension within it and make it a little easier for somebody who maybe feels like they're overwhelmed with all the racial stuff that's going on in society. It's easier makes the movie an easier pill to swallow, where you're able to kind of get some of the social commentary there, but also it's not a situation where it's just like, oh, white people are the villains again. There's a reason why, or meaning behind a lot of what was going on throughout.
Well, the only thing I have to say about this is it seemed like that the way they were explaining it seemed a little bit like the old Steve Martin movie, The Man with Two Brains. And I was just waiting for someone to be walking around with a jar with a brain that was talking to him. That would have made the movie even better for me, but that's just a momentary thing. I thought it was very reminiscent of that. I was just waiting for them to screw the tops of the heads off, and it didn't happen, but they were on their way.
For someone I've never seen or experienced Daniel Kaluuya in a role, I think he did a remarkable job as Chris. However, Sam Jackson took exception to an English actor being cast in this particular role. Ryan, what were your thoughts on his performance, and would an American actor been better suited?
So I think that was a dumb comment by Sam Jackson. They're actors. That's what they do. And as long as you can pull the role off, it doesn't really matter. I think, it's one thing if you cast, it's like casting, who was cast to play Michael Jackson recently? I fear there's a white actor that was cast to play Michael Jackson, which was a little strange. So, I get it in that type of a situation. But in this case, like, the other part is like British actors just tend to be better than American actors. I don't know if it has to do with like kind of more classical training or what, but you see in a lot of situations where they're British actors that just do a much better job than American actors. So I think, if you're an actor, that's your job, and you're, whether you have to do it through research or whatever, your job is to find that, whatever the experience of that character is, and make it part of yourself and project that. And I think Daniel Kaluuya did a great job. I saw him in an episode of Black Mirror, and I thought he was great. And I think he did an amazing. Again, having been through many of the situations he's been through, he plays it perfectly. And so to me, his performance was outstanding. And so I don't think that casting a black actor who's directly experienced that would have made it any different. And it's not like he's never experienced racism just because he grew up in the UK. I'm sure he's dealt with many issues like that as well. So I think that Samuel Jackson's comments were pretty ignorant and it just didn't make sense.
He did a great job. Just flat out. And Sam Jackson must not have seen the movie at the point when he said this, because had he seen the movie, I think he might have backtracked off of what he's saying a little bit, because there's no way you could even tell. If you had never seen Daniel Kaluuya before this, you wouldn't know he wasn't American. There was no indicator. There was nothing leading toward it. His accents were right. His mannerisms were right. He seemed American. He was able to walk around with Allison Williams, who, famous newscaster Brian Williams' daughter who had her ass eaten out on girls. Come on. If you can walk around with her and make it fit, you must be an American, or at least be able to play one on TV.
Ryan, your thoughts and your rating on the movie?
Rating, I think it's one of the best movies I've seen in a few years. I think that, again, I mentioned Jordan Peele does a great job of blending the social commentary with the thriller, with the horror, with just being really smart, incredibly funny when it needs to be funny, and nothing ever feels like thrown in your face. It just kind of everything blends really well. And like I said, I love the twist. Personally could relate to the character, and I love that a lot of times when we get movies about race, it's or you have like a black lead, either race just hits you over the head, it's only about race, and it makes, again, kind of will make the white characters out to be real villains, and then or just the race it's just kind of neutral racially, like there's no issue. And so in this case, again, it is about race, there's no way around it, but I think he does a great job of not hitting you over the head with it, and then by adding that twist, he really makes it, it's not, they're not evil. They're not evil because they hate black people. They're evil because they want to basically enslave people or take people's bodies and swap brains out. So it makes it it's a whole different type of evil that really isn't about race. So I think that I think he did a great job. I'm a little nervous because to do such a great job for your first movie, what's going to happen the second time out or the third time out, because he has a really high bar to climb over. But I would give it out of 10, I would give it a 9, somewhere between a 9 and a 9.5.
Get Out was the perfect combination of horror film and social commentary with a Sixth Sense-like twist. I personally have a hard time with stuff like this because I treat people on a merit-by-merit basis. You're a jerk to me till you prove otherwise. However, I generally believe people sometimes are ignorant to how they sound regardless of what their intentions are, which makes them inadvertently racist at points. You have more ignorance in your mind than hate in your heart. However, through spending a larger portion of time with my friend Cage, it really made me aware of this through many conversations about his past experiences. So that made some of the more cringeworthy moments for me especially hard to deal with. Jordan and the cast did a really great job, especially Rod. And I'm excited to see what he does next as a writer and a director. In his own words, comedy was only a stopover in his career, and horror has always been where his heart is. And in closing, the one statement made in the movie I completely agree with. Rod said, white people are always trying to make people sex slaves. And I generally agree with that. The movie's great. You should go see it. For me, it was a solid 9.
Oh shit, sex slaves! Rod was great in this movie, and I loved it so much. But on top of that, everybody was great in this movie. I don't think there was a miscast anywhere in it. Everybody fit right where they should, and all the acting parts were done so well. I was just blown away by this movie because it far surpassed my expectations. I expected going in, this would be about a 5 movie, like around the middle of the road. Comedy guy tries to do something else, kind of like the earlier films and Robin Williams tried to go serious, like The World According to Garp. You thought it was going to be good, it ended up not being all that good. But this was great. I really enjoyed it. It was a good time, and it was funny, it was heartbreaking, it was serious, and it was scary, all at the same time. I'm going to give it a 9. There you go, Cinik Radio Podcast. We're going to call this just a flat-out 9. Get out. Go see this. It'll probably be coming on DVD very soon, but it's still in theaters. Get out to a theater. Go see this. You will not be disappointed. I guarantee it. Coming up, here comes Really.
So now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's time for Really. I'd explain it. Just listen. You'll get it.
So my Really for the week goes out to NBA star, actor, rapper, police officer, honorary doctor, and podcast host Shaquille O'Neal, who said on his own podcast, The Big Podcast, that he thinks the earth is flat because it seems flat when he drives coast to coast. Come on, Shaq, I've always respected you. And you're so tall you could practically see the curvature of the earth. Like, how could you believe this? You actually seem like a reasonably smart guy. So let's just hope that he never adds scientist to his list of accomplishments, because obviously he's whacked. So my Really for the week goes out to Shaquille O'Neal.
My Really this week is on the flip side of the Colin Kaepernick debate. It's Sarah Palin stating that he was only making a donation to Meals on Wheels as a political stunt. This thoroughly baffles me. I mean, can this guy do anything right? Kaepernick has proven time and again to be very charitable to all of his causes, and I don't think he was the only one outraged when this proposed budget was released because Meals on Wheels had a record number of donations this week. But more importantly in all of this, if it was a political stunt, I believe he would have been the one announcing it to the press, when in actuality it was Meals on Wheels who confirmed this donation. Shouldn't Sarah Palin just be happy to have an athlete who has a lot of money give back to the community, thank him for this generous donation, rather than finding fault in it? Thoroughly confusing to me, but then again, I guess I'm not surprised. So, Sarah Palin, really?
Really, for me, this week goes out to Apple again. And not just because you still can't buy a pair of AirPods, but because they just released the product red version of the iPhone 7. Now, I don't have any problem. I'm very happy that they're contributing to the Global Fund to support HIV and AIDS programs with their product red line. But why didn't they release this back when they released the iPhone 7? Or better yet, just give them some money. I mean, Apple is making a killing. They're still one of the most valuable companies in the world. To only give to Product Red and chase that money down when you have that program seems a little greedy, Apple. The phone looks amazing, but the timing is all wrong. Either you should have done it when the 7 first came out or waited for the 8. I don't agree with this, and you still don't have any AirPods available to buy anywhere. Apple, really?
My really this week goes out to the fact that once again we've all fell victim to another cowardly act of terror, where 4 people have lost their lives and 29 people remain hospitalized. But that's not the basis of my really, even though it kills me a little bit inside every single time that this happens. It's the new trend that rather than helping people, everyone decides to whip out their phones because they now work for CNN and record photos and pictures of people while they lie on the ground injured. While I understand the phone filters reality, it's far past time we all stop trying to be the next YouTube sensation and start being human beings again. These are victims, and I emphasize victims. These people are people's moms and dads and husbands and wives and kids. But somehow that all gets lost in the search for internet stardom. We need to stop putting ourselves in front of injured people that are in need of treatment, that are bleeding and sticking our phones in their faces, and start helping them. To those people, and you know who you are, really?
And that's going to do it for episode 24 of the Cinik Radio Podcast. I'm Igrahi. With me this week has been my co-host and the man who believes that the farting scene in Blazing Saddles is true cinematic art, Cinik. Also joining us this week, we've had Jules, we've had Ryan George from the Jim Wits podcast, and a little visit from Kate. We had a great time talking about The Walking Dead. We had a fabulous time talking about Get Out. We had some great realies and what's ups, and we're looking forward to bringing more to you next week. Send us your comments, questions, concerns, and any leftover sex slaves you may have gotten in your lifetime to cynicradio@gmail.com. Find us online at cynicradio.com. Look for us on Facebook at facebook.com/cynicradio and find us on Twitter at cynicradio. Come back and join us next week. We'll have the season finale of The Walking Dead and something else exciting. You won't want to miss it. And until then, don't get captured.
Follow the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and at cynicradio.com. Available for download on iTunes.
What's up?